Hey everyone, this is Kai from WCC, and today we'll look at the premium decks that we might see at the World Championships. We did standard a few days ago, so check that one out if you haven't yet, but for premium, we've got a big pool going on. So let's go back in time to the time when I made a tier list for premium, and I predicted a bunch of clans that had the potential of topping, and the other clans that had a very low potential chance of topping, and then Ezel was on its own because it's just that good. So here is that list of clans that I thought had a good chance of topping, and now that it's the end of the season, let's take a look at which clans did not top. And unfortunately, my head is blocking Spike Brothers and Nubatama, but they've already topped when I made that video, so don't worry about them. They're pretty well covered. But the ones that did not top are Genesis and Nova Grapplers. Now, for Nova Grapplers, gonna be not too exactly sure on Nova Grapplers. Maybe they did top in the last couple of events. They definitely didn't top in Australia because I was there, but not too sure if they topped in Malaysia or if they topped in Carrot Expo, and with Carrot Expo the 2 blocks. So yeah, not too sure if they did, but I recall definitely Genesis did not, so unlucky for them. This does include the Japanese format, so we have like Dimension Police that topped a few times in Japan, and then we had Aquaforce, I think, that topped once in like England. So basically everything here has at least topped once. Now, if we move to the next page, the low potential clans, they were Murakumo, Angel Feather, Narukami, and Gear Chronicle. Now, surprisingly, in these low potential clans, Murakumo did top. In fact, it topped twice with the Murakumo Infinite Loop in Australia, and one person qualified for Worlds in, I think, Indonesia. So congrats to him. But the other clans, unfortunately, they were very, very low potential, so nothing much happened for them. So now that we know what has topped, including Ezel, let's predict what is going to appear at BCS 2019 World Championships. So we've got this nice little background from Baga. Go check him out. He draws the mats. He draws everything nice. I will put a link to his Twitter in the description. But let's look at the likely deck. So easy one right up is Gold Paladin. It's done very well this tournament. People thought Gold Paladin was not the best deck because it got hit by a ban list. People thought Neo Nectar would be. But turns out Gold Paladin is still good. Basically wins a bunch of things around the world and does very well and still gets support. So got some recent support too. So we'll definitely see this deck at Worlds. Not really much of a. Next one is Neo Nectars. This clan is way more popular in the West, I feel, than in the East or in Southeast Asia. So Europe and America definitely see more Neo Nectars than we see in elsewhere in the oceanic regions. Definitely see it at Worlds, I think, because it's just a culmination of the world coming together and playing Vanguard. So we'll definitely see Neo Nectars there. Widely considered to be a very brainless deck, but still does pretty well, and that's one of its strong points. So let's see how well it goes in Worlds. And then lastly, in the very likely deck section, we have Dark Irregulars. Everyone has hyped this up quite a bit. Definitely a nice combo deck. It does very well against everything because it just doesn't care about anything. So we'll definitely see this one at Worlds, especially with people wanting to win. Alright. Next, we have OTT. Now, OTT I feel is more popular in Southeast Asia and Oceania. And then also popular wherever Muhammad goes, or MoTT. And I think it's done pretty well in Japan a couple of times too, which is surprising. It also got hit like Gold Paladin, but also like Gold Paladin, it has come back with a vengeance and just critting everyone out of the wazoo. People running Tsukuyomi as their nice engine, always getting the nice pluses, and then kind of just stalling the game until they can just crit you out. So slower now, unlike before, but definitely just does pretty well against a lot of these other decks in the premium metagame. And then we have Luard. Now, Luard's kind of funny. Was pretty good. People thought it would be good. When stuff got banned, it did win something at the beginning of BCS when stuff wasn't banned. And then I think Ryan topped with it recently with a pretty interesting build. So I want to see how this deck, like, people definitely do take Luard. They definitely take Shadow Paladin, because Shadow Paladin is like a favorite clan amongst a lot of people. But what's interesting here is that we're in Southeast Asia where there's less Neo Nectars, which can just kind of brain dead, destroy you anyway kind of thing. How does Luard fare in a format where there will be more Neonectars? Because going into Worlds, yes, there will be Europe, there will be USA, and from their metas, they're definitely looking at Neonectar as a decent pick, while an SEA, not as big of a pick as other decks. So that's why sometimes when you go to SEA, you see a lot of random decks as well as Gold Paladins. So it'll be interesting if anyone takes Luard to Worlds. Let's see how it does. It should be pretty interesting. And then moving on to the last few decks in the likely deck section, we have Hellheart 8 Spike Brothers. Spike Brothers is definitely more popular in the West than in the East. Two builds, we've got the aggro build and the GB8 build. I feel they both do pretty well. I think someone will definitely take either one of them to Worlds, just because it also has that surprise factor in that not that many people do play against GB8, even though it's somewhat popular. It's always in the back of people's minds, but they never really test as much against it. So people who stick with Spike Brothers will definitely do pretty well with it, I feel. So we'll likely see. I think this is like a big European thing as well, even though Living Proof is in the USA, but I think a lot of Europeans do like Spike Brothers. So I do think we'll have a good chance of seeing this pop up. And then lastly, on the likely decks list, I put Kagero. Now, a lot of people underestimate Kagero simply because it's Kagero, you know? Don't underestimate it. Although the game plan for Kagero is very simple, it does follow up with a very, very strong push that can absolutely just destroy you. And with that Force 2 marker now, games go by very quickly. And even if you try and damage deny it, does have Dumjid, so it's very hard to guard a Dumjid, and it's still able to go for a reason. So it's got quite a decent amount of pressure. Also, people forget that they can recycle their triggers with the X, and then kind of create a very compressed deck scenario where sometimes your attacks just get absolutely stalled by Kagero. It's a pretty good deck. There's lots of ways to build it, and you won't know what kind of build it is until you're actually playing against it, and that's when the trouble starts. They'll retire cards, you have less resources, and then counting triggers and all that. It can get pretty frightening. And then that's pretty much all the likely decks in the current format. Moving on to the maybe decks. These are decks that probably will only show up like once or twice. Like one or two people playing it, not these other decks where more people will be playing it. First one right up is Great Nature. Now, I'm gonna say I'm not a great Nature player. There's a lot of new cards that just came out for it, so I think there's gonna be some pretty interesting builds that people can come up with. But that person is not me. So it'll be really interesting to see if someone takes Great Nature to Worlds, what kind of builds they come up with, and maybe we'll see it on stream or on Solon Vanguard's channel, because he is a Great Nature lover. So pretty interesting idea. Let's see what happens with Great Nature. Next, we have Grand Blue. Now, Grand Blue is a pretty weird pick, but it did top, I think, twice. Topped once in Philippines, and it topped once in Malaysia. So both SEA formats. Because of that, there will probably be one person taking Grand Blue, I think. So we might see that on stream. A lot of people do underestimate this deck as well, simply because no one plays it. But it seems like it has a pretty good matchup against a lot of things, able to slow the game down, get a lot of defense, and then just destroy you in one turn. So it'll be pretty interesting to see what people come up with for Grand Blue and how people can actually deal with it, because it's definitely one of those things that is just not as meta as you'd think, so people wouldn't really test against it, but then suddenly they have to play against someone who's been playing this deck a lot and then kind of just fall over. Next, we have Murakumo. I did mention Murakumo did top twice, and one person did make it to Worlds with Murakumo. Whether that means more people will take it, I don't think so, but the person that did top with it probably has a good chance of playing again. That's why I'm putting it there. Murakumo does have a pretty good matchup against a lot of the slower decks in the format, so like DI and Hellheart 8 and Ichikishima. Those decks require time to set up. Maybe even Luard as well. But yeah, decks that require time to set up, they can easily damage deny them and then just kill them in one turn. So it'll be interesting to see if people will still play this. Unfortunately, it dies pretty hard to like Kagero and Great Nature to some extent. But yeah, we might have a chance of seeing this Infinite Loop, and it will be really, really amazing if we do see it on stream. And then lastly, to sum up the maybe deck section, we have Pale Moon. Now, Pale Mooners really love to Pale Moon, and they always stick with Pale Moon. That's what I found. There's actually 2 interesting deck types for Pale Moon, and that is the loop and the non-loop. So the non-loop is just drawing a bunch of cards and doing a lot of multi-attacks. So both decks I feel are quite good, and although they're maybe not as good as the other top decks in the metagame, they do show some pretty decent potential. So yeah, I think we might see 1 or 2 Pale Moon. And it's not like they do bad, they do pretty good. They did win, I think, Hiroshima. So there is potential there for Pale Moon. And it'll be really interesting to see what people come up with, the deck lists, and then how they play it on stream. Because it's just one of those really nice... when you see a Pale Moon in game, it's always an interesting game. So, Pale Mooners, I hope you guys do bring it, and we have a very, very interesting games with it on stream. So that about wraps up what decks I think will come up at Premium. The rest of the decks I don't think will come up. Things like Aqua Force, Link Joker. The only other one I think that will pop up maybe is Mega Colony. Maybe one player will play, but unfortunately Colon's not coming this year, so we don't have that Mega Colony representative. So yeah, but that is probably the one clan I'd say that has potential of showing up. But others, Link Joker, Link Joker, DI, not DI, Dementia Police, and yeah, Royal Pounds. I don't think will show up or have the potential to show up at all. So that's it from me. See you guys at Welt, and maybe we can all have fun watching it. So bye.